Okay, good morning once again, everyone. Thank you for joining Workstream 1, which is focusing in on Uni Connect and FEC collaboration. I'm Lee Morton, I'm the head of Study High, and I'll be chairing this Workstream session this morning. As before, please type any questions that you have for our presenters in the chat box at the bottom of your screen, and I will aim to get through as many as possible as I can at the end of this session. The idea is that we've got two presentations today. They'll each last about 15 minutes, and then we'll have about 15 minutes at the end of the session for questions. So our first presenters this morning are Bill Robb, who is the team manager at Go Higher West Yorkshire, and Kirsty Sanderson, the outreach officer, again from Go Higher West Yorkshire Uni Connect. And they will explain how their Uni Connect partnership is collaborating with further education colleges. So Bill, Kirsty, thank you very much. Over to you. And everyone, please do post some questions into the chat at the end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Excuse me. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to just give an overview of Go Higher West Yorkshire and Uni Connect, and then Kirsty's going to talk about some of the activities that we've been delivering. Okay. So Go Higher West Yorkshire is a consortium, not a legal entity, and there are 13 partners. So we've got 5 FE colleges across West Yorkshire, 2 specialist colleges, which is these conservatoires and these college building, and then 6 universities. And we all work together in all of them. So there is a lead. The University of Leeds is the lead body. The aim, next slide, please. The aim of Go Higher West Yorkshire is very similar to Uni Connect because it's about collaboration. It's about improving access to, success in and progression from higher education, and particularly focusing on those underrepresented groups. So it's achieved by, as you can see, the list of activities there that we work together on. The structure of Go Higher West Yorkshire itself. Next slide, please. So we've got a Go Higher West Yorkshire board, which has senior representatives from the 13 institutions. And then, as you can see on the right-hand side, Uni Connect is one of the streams of Go Higher West Yorkshire. So we have a project assurance committee, and the chair for that is a senior member from an FE college, and the Uni Connect finance committee, which is separate, which is also chaired by an FE senior representative. And the board actually is represented by one of the universities, and that does rotate. Okay. So within each partner institution, we have an outreach officer, and I work with those outreach officers. And the aim there is for them to work with schools and colleges to look at what activities we can do to better inform students about routes into higher education. It's not about persuading them to join, it's about helping them to make an informed choice. And that higher education may be full-time at the university, it may be part-time, it might be at FE college. It may be that they go down the apprenticeship route. And within 3 of the colleges, we also have a progression officer who, Kirsty, the slides are quite small. Can you share them? Reshare them? No?
Kirsty, yeah, the slides just look a little bit small on screen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Strange. I'm really sorry. I'll stop sharing and see if I can reshare again.
Thank you.
I'm not sure why it's working like that.
They still look quite small. Yeah. We have kind
it was okay before, and we
yeah.
Just because it's showing the next slide as well.
you want me to? I mean, I can make sure that we have the slides available. It's me that's taking over the next slide now anyway. So I could talk around what's on the slides. I'm really sorry. I'm not sure why when we put it in the test when it was fine. Would you like me to carry on?
Yeah, if you'd like to take over now, please,
Yeah.
Kirsty.
Sorry about the slides. So my name is Kirsty Sanderson and I'm the Uni Connect Outreach Officer at the University Centre at Calderdale College. So I'm going to focus now a little bit more on the work that we do with the FE colleges. So as Bill has explained, FE colleges are fully integrated into and represented throughout all of our activity, and they're represented on the Go Higher West Yorkshire board. So at Go Higher West Yorkshire, we've got staff based in all of our partners who promote the full range of the routes into and through higher education and deliver activity based on the needs of learners. So all the collaborative activity that we offer has college-based higher education institutions input and are offered to our FE students alongside our link schools. So for example, we've recently produced some online collaborative taster days and our college-based HE institutions delivered sessions and they were offered to Uni Connect students studying in FE colleges and schools.
Excuse me, Kirsty.
So, yeah.
You're showing your next slide and your notes.
Right.
So is that
okay?
Why it's not why it's small?
Possibly. Right, I'll try from the beginning again. Okay, is that better?
Nothing sharing at the moment. Oh, this looks like it might be better. So if you go on to presenter.
Right, is that better now?
That looks good from my...
Oh, I'm so sorry. It worked the first time round. Okay.
Thanks, Kirsty.
Right, okay. So sorry about that. So in the so as I was saying before, all our activity is that we offer is offered to our FE students alongside our link schools, and I just spoke briefly about the collaborative taster days. So we make sure that language is always inclusive of any of the presentations or activity that we run when referring to routes into higher education. So that's A levels, BTEC levels, and T levels, the new T levels. And in April last academic year, we started a college network group. And the Go Higher West Yorkshire really wanted to provide a platform for practitioners and managers in FE colleges to discuss their strategic direction within Go Higher West Yorkshire, share best practice, identify areas for collaboration and share research and evaluation. So these meetings allowed managers and practitioners across the FE centres and colleges across our region to discuss the ever-changing experiences and barriers that colleagues in FE settings are facing right now, and to provide a platform for us to work towards solutions where possible. One of the actions that resulted from this group was for practitioners to create a working group, and this working group has become known as West YUCA. So West YUCA stands for the West Yorkshire University Centre and College Alliance. And the decision to start this working group, as I said, came from discussions with the College Network Group. It was felt that there needed to be much more work done to promote university centres and colleges that offer higher education. So officers and managers felt that there was a real need for more authentic and natural talking heads content for students on vocational courses and support for them progressing into HE. They felt that there was a great need to promote HE in an FE setting. So our partner institutions did already have some content. For example, Leeds City College have produced podcasts regarding studying higher education courses in colleges. And at Calderdale College, we have some blogs and some information around academic skill support, but we all agreed that this needed to be part of a bigger and more sustained intervention, and that we needed to embed this into our outreach work and make sure that our internal staff, careers officers and students understood the progression opportunities that were available to them in their local FE colleges. So the creation of this working group would also mean that colleges could continue to work together and collaborate on projects even after the Go Higher West Yorkshire Uni Connect project comes to an end. College-based higher education institutions don't have the same amount of resources, staff and marketing as some of the large universities in the project. We felt that it's still really, really important to highlight the unique selling points that the colleges have to offer. It's very much in its early stages. So we're currently developing a homepage to collate all the existing resources that have already been created, but we've also produced a video campaign that highlights the unique selling points of studying HE in a college-based setting. We used a local production company to film all the videos, that there was no bias and that there was a consistency in a format to the campaign. So the films and resources will be housed on the existing Go Higher West Yorkshire website. As a group, we all agreed on the unique selling points that we wanted to focus on, and then we allocated the areas so that each institution filmed a video. So the filming was completed in August, and we went through the final editing process through the summer, and we now have a suite of 7 videos that cover links with employers, links with industry, support for adult learners, alternative routes, facilities, student experience and some SEND support. And we've also produced a general overview video. So the plan now is to complete the webpage, which will house these videos and then pull together the existing resources into one area. We'll be including a glossary for the alternative HE routes, explaining different qualifications in more detail. And then, for example, alongside the video for the SEND support, each other institution can populate their information resource and the resources that they have and provide a link to each institution's webpage or website. So we do also hope to link in with other Go Higher West Yorkshire projects, such as Care to Go Higher, which is our work with care experienced young people, and develop the further work with FE colleges in general. So outreach officers and progression officers are developing work that focuses on transition from FE into HE. And we're looking at some collaborative taster days around study support and academic skills, back to the college mentoring where HE students who went to FE college go back to mentor students on the same course, and some CPD for progress coaches. I think the name of the group also provides scope to collaborate more with other Uni Connect, other Yorkshire Uni Connect partnerships in the future, which is something that we're really keen to do through phase 3 of the Uni Connect project. And we will then work with our communications group and hope to launch the campaign very soon. Possibly host a takeover week spotlighting HE and FE. And we're meeting next week to start discussing some outreach sessions that we could provide alongside the campaign. We may look to invite parents and carers, careers advisors onto our HE campuses to see some of our facilities and speak to our student ambassadors. So I'm going to pass you back over to Bill now, who's going to talk about some of the future work that we have on the horizon with FE colleges as well.
Thanks, Kirsty. So we are looking at what else we can do through FE colleges, and obviously phase 3 provides the opportunity for us to start to look at how we're going to work with mature learners, adult learners. So currently we're asking our outreach officers to scope where those students are in their colleges, which courses are they on. Obviously there'll be people on access courses, but there'll also be people on other level 2, level 3 courses. And we just need to know where they are so that we can talk to them about what their needs are, and then we can respond to that. We're also asking all the partners to look at their access and participation plans and to see what references are in there around work with mature adult learners. So again, we can get a good feeling for what's happening across the patch and collaborate, share ideas. Kirsty mentioned us linking in with other Uni Connects. We've had some discussions with York and North Yorkshire Uni Connect. about how we might work together around work with adults. We border, and there's a lot of cross-border students, so that's something else we're doing. And then finally, Kirsty's piloting a mentoring project. We did some training with ambassadors in 12 of 13 partners last term, and in Calderdale College, where Kirsty works, we've got some adults who have been trained up as ambassadors to then work with groups within the college, other adults. So again, that's a pilot, and we'll see how that goes. And again, they'll be looking to see how we can help adult learners in the future. Okay, thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Kirsty and Bill. That was really interesting. We're going to move on to our next presenter now. And as I said, I'll take questions at the end, but please feel free to continue to type any questions that you have for our presenters in the chat box at the bottom of your screen, and I'll get to them at the end of the session. So our next presenter, I'd like to welcome Dr. Jane Fern, who is the Strategic Development Manager at Cirencester College. And she's going to be presenting on how Cirencester College have been working with Uni Connect and how effective that has been. Jane, over to you. We can see your slides. That's great. Thank you.
That's a great start. Okay, thank you, Lucinda. Firstly, apologies from my colleague. I'm afraid he's ill, so he's been unable to join me with this presentation. So yeah, Cirencester College. So we work with 2 Uni Connect consortia, and we work both as a receiver of support and as a deliverer of support. So we're a sixth form college. The phrase engines of social mobility is not mine, but we strongly agree with it. At college, we have about 2/3 of our students studying A-level programmes, about 1/3 on technical, vocational or mixed programmes. Clearly the vocational are going to transition mainly to technical over the next few years. So we recruit from a wide I've noticed one of my images hasn't turned up. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what's happened there. We recruit from a very wide geographical area. So we cover both urban centres like Cheltenham, Gloucester and Swindon. And we also cover rural areas, North Wiltshire and the Cotswolds. So we have a very broad profile of students. Swindon, as we know, is one of the lowest local authorities for HE progression. And I think sometimes the rural areas get forgotten about a little bit because some of the ward level data, the statistics are so small, but there's actually really very real barriers to learning and choice for those learners. Right, in terms of what we achieve at the college, we send more than 600 students to university every year. Each year we have an increasing proportion of target ward learners, and we do deliberately target quintile 1 and 2 wards. Our HE progression rate is the same, it's equal across all our polar 4 quintiles. We're aspirational for our students, so it's not just about getting into any university, it's making sure the higher achieving students aspire to go to the higher tariff institutions. Once they get to university, the graphs on the right show you that they also do well. Those from the low participation rates, the first graph, the upper one, is those gaining first or second class degrees, upper second class degrees, and the lower one is continuation rates. So it's that transitional period of time at this particular age group. And of course, there are other very positive destinations for students. It's not all about going to university, it's making the right choice for them. So how we do it is, I think because of the scale of what we do, we can have an experienced dedicated pastoral team. We believe the fact we have a broad profile of students learning together is very helpful. Our culture is very much about developing independence. So once they then transition into university, they've already gained some of those skills. They've been supported through that process. We have an inclusive approach to our own admissions, addressing prospection bias, that sort of thing. We invest in our school liaison programme. We have a lot of support for parents who we see as our allies in helping our students. A recent initiative is we disregard GCSE grades in the first term. We don't even let the lecturers know what they are. It's all the focus is on effort grades. And I think at the moment, you know, the last couple of years that we've had, you know, that's been particularly timely. So what we do, everybody has obviously a layer of support available to them, but we do target. We need to try and make up the difference. So some of our students have very different levels of support at home than others. And so we know how we have to target, and we target those who are most in need. And then we have very specific models for those, the high achieving students, those who want to apply for Oxbridge and medical, veterinary, that sort of thing. The further development of what we wish to do is further targeting and intensifying student support to achieve the greatest impact, further develop this specialist pastoral model. We want to improve identification of potential high achievers. It's not just about self-identification, because students can underestimate their potential. So that's something we're working on. Further making up the difference, we do feel very strongly that, you know, if you come from an independent school, you know, the support you'd get for an Oxbridge or a medical application is very different to if you're at a state school or a state college. So we do our best. We have to find different ways of doing it because we don't have their resources, but trying to make up that difference. We also provide alternative high prestige routes. This is the T-levels coming on board. Transport is an interesting challenge for us where we are, but we have expanded our network and the flexibility of that network. We wish to further expand liaison work to reach more students and schools. Our view is that post-16 choices are absolutely critical if they're going to get their post-18 choices right. As a college, we still get shut out of many schools with sixth forms and also multi-academy trusts, but through working with Uni Connect, you know, that there is an alternative route through. We're not telling all the students they've got to come to us at all, but it's all about making that informed choice. And also we want to expand some work targeting community leaders to encourage aspiration. So this is the challenge, is when some wonderful offers come to us from universities and Uni Connect consortia, is the challenges to support our students. So it's just the sheer scale of what we do. We have 130 tutor groups. There is no way we can get all our one-year group into a room. We just can't do that. On top of that, different students are on different timetables, so they can be in on different days. So, you know, our popular subjects run across all 6 timetable columns. So anything that's offered to us really has to be offered at scale. You know, we don't have lunchtime slots. We don't have capacity to do that. They're different. It's not consistent. And, you know, we are restricted at the end of the day because we have a bus network. Our students are 50-50 split across 2 Uni Connect areas. And certainly sometimes in the past, and we seem to be moving away from this, it's just not practical for us for group work to pull out target ward learners or other groups from our very mixed groups. It's not great for the students. They don't want to particularly be labelled like that. And it's just the practicalities of doing that. It can take a member of our staff more time to organise that than the time that's actually spent delivering the activity, if you see what I mean. So in terms of what we view as working well, it's that scale and that flexibility. That's absolutely key. I mean, you know, we teach, compared to a school sixth form, the number of students we're teaching is a completely different scale. And that focus on making up the difference is very important to us. We really welcome external expertise that we do not have in-house, but we do have some expertise in-house because of the scale of what we do. So what we need might be different from a smaller provider. We certainly welcome the universities to work with the 16+ specialists, the pre-16 outreach work. That's absolutely critical. This is my controversial bit. The biggest impact for us is if the sector was just funded adequately. Nobody has ever explained to me why under 16 students and over 18 students cost so much more to educate than 16 to 18 students, but there we go. We don't get pupil premium, we don't get transport support. So yeah, if you want to level up, that's absolutely key in my view. Finally, this was specialist outreach, just a summary, the stuff we can't deliver ourselves at a scale that is straightforward for us to coordinate. We know what we want to do to achieve the greatest impact, but we are constrained by our funding, unfortunately. There's an element of almost trust here. We certainly find in the sector, you know, we can employ extra staff if we had the money to really target. You know, we don't pay them very much, bless them, but you know, that gets rid of a lot of these overhead costs. And there's certainly, we believe, a basis for a research project looking at impact and value for money. So this is, again, let me reiterate, this is support for our own students, and it's also the pre-16 outreach by post-16 specialists in collaboration with universities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. That's great. You can stop sharing your screen now.
Sure.
And I'll just remind participants, if you do have any questions for our presenters, feel free to pop them in the chat and I will get to them. So Kirsty and Bill, I'll welcome you back, and I've got a couple of questions just to kick us off. I think my first one's probably directed to you, and it's just a bit more information about, is it the Yucca group that you've set up? I hope I'm saying it right. I'm particularly really interested in that, and I'm wondering if you'd be able to give us a bit more information on actually what types of jobs those people who are in the Yucca group have. So what do they do? What's their general day-to-day work within the college?
Actually, in the Yucca group at the moment, it's just Uni Connect colleagues at the moment. So in the college networking group, that's managers and practitioners that are based in the colleges that are in the Uni Connect project. And the Yucca group is the progression officers and outreach officers in the project that all meet together. So we all work on the Uni Connect project.
Okay, so those people are funded already through Uni Connect. I think you've frozen. I'm not sure if anyone else is having this problem. But Bill, you're nodding there. So the
Yes.
on the Yucca group are those actually who are funded by Uni Connect, rather than those people who are already delivering outreach or work with schools in colleges and funded by the colleges.
Yeah, they're additional. Yeah. And they have their own budgets, again through Uni Connect. To pay for the activities and anything that we're doing, the cooperative tasty days, that kind of thing. But they work alongside the outreach officers that the colleges have anyway.
Lovely, thank you. I'm going to direct a question now towards Jane, and I think part of it is maybe just a view. Rupert's posted a comment saying that he agrees with the challenge that you outlined around pulling out target ward learners from cohorts, particularly in colleges. So he's asked their colleges to identify cohorts with higher numbers to focus on initially, so we know where we can be most impactful, and then they're hoping to then work backwards from that over the year, as to not withhold any provision. I suppose practically for Uni Connects, Jane, I don't know if you've got any thoughts about, the targeting. I know you know very well what the Uni Connect targeting is, but you also know very well what the challenges are, therefore, in us working with colleges and singling out or pulling out those target ward learners. Is there anything that you've done with Uni Connects that's worked quite well that has tried to target a little bit more? Or have you got any other thoughts or comments around the targeting and how Uni Connects can work better with colleges to try and make sure they are working with the correct learners without trying to isolate or isolate those learners from the rest of the cohort? Do you have any other comments on that, Jane?
I think it's really difficult, if I'm honest with you. I mean, I think the strength of what we do is because we don't have most target ward learners in one particular group or not. I think that is a strength, that we have learners from lots of different backgrounds all learning together. So, you know, in a tutor group, I think that would diminish what we're trying to do if we try to have particular tutor groups with particular types of students, and I really don't think that is wise. And subject wise as well. I can't see how that would particularly work. I'm not being very helpful at all, am I? The other problem is, you know, we're a very busy college. You know, we don't have a lot of spare capacity in terms of rooms or staff time to put on a particular slot. We have tried in the past, haven't we? I know we have. I mean, I can guarantee that, you know, every group, every tutorial group, every teaching group will have target ward learners in, because of the proportion that we have in the college, and a lot more of those also will be quintile 1 and 2. I would also argue that there are also other students who have barriers to their learning and their progression that aren't necessarily measured in that way. So it's important we incorporate those as well. So it's really hard to tell you what the answer is there. I think the best thing that we can try and do is just make sure we're reaching some of those students. But it is the scale. It's the scale that's the challenge with colleges. But there's no way we'd want to isolate particular types of students into particular groups, because I believe that's the strength of what we do, that we're not like that. We've got this very broad profile. So not a great answer, sorry.
No, it's useful to hear your thoughts. So do you think really targeted outreach is one way in which we should be looking to work with further education colleges, in that, and you mentioned that you've got quite a good, you know, pastoral support for your students. I don't know if that's kind of on a one-to-one, almost mentoring support.
Well, it's a range, yeah, it's a range of things. I mean, obviously they're in tutor group, and then they do have one-to-one sessions, and we have a whole series on our student records of various flags where we know that students will require more support for one reason or another, and then that's targeted. I mean, the biggest battle for us is what we can afford to do, to be quite frank with you, is you know, there's only so many hours in the day for the staff to deliver this stuff. So, you know, if we could have another progression tutor who could work with students, or, you know, have that partly funded, then we could particularly focus them on those students with particular flags. That's the potential. But then on the other side, there's also the school outreach as well, which I think it's the other aspect. But I think that's very important, because if you're 15 and you're in a school, you know, the university seems quite a remote thing sometimes. It's great, some of the stuff that happens, absolutely, but they need to think about what they're doing in the short term in order to then get to where they want to get to in the longer term. So I think that's important too.
Great, thank you. Carrying on from that, Kirsty and Bill, I'd like to come back to you on a similar point. I think that this question might be for Kirsty again, but Bill, you mentioned that, Kirsty, you're in the process of developing an FE mentoring project, potentially using FE ambassadors, maybe working with adults. Would you be able to briefly tell us a little bit more about that and how you see that working in FECs?
Yeah, I mean, I working in an FE college and HE in a HE setting, we obviously have a different profile to some of our student mentors. So we've basically taken on, across the partnership, across each institution, we've developed this mindful mentoring program, which will enable students to be trained up to go in and mentor students between from years 9 up to year 13, level 3. But in my college, a lot of the students that I have trained up are also adult learners, and have also learners that have come through the FE pathway. So I'm looking to kind of to build on that a little bit more, and to do some kind of link those students in kind of a back to the floor mentoring, so they go back and work with students. For example, I've got 2 BA business and leadership students that are going to go back and work with some of the level 3 students who are doing the course that they did. So, and I think that there's some common ground there, and it's very, like I say, it's very much in the early stages, but I'm hoping that I can kind of build on that through this academic year, and that it'll be quite it will work really well. And we're also going to be using the adult learners that we have trained up on the mindful mentoring program to do a bit of a focus group and use them to find out from their experiences of what it is that they would have liked to have seen, and what additional help they would benefit from. So yeah, it's like I say, it's very much in the early stages, but I've had really good feedback from the tutors and progress coaches that I've spoken to about the program. So yeah, hopefully in the next couple of months we'll see if that's working.
That sounds really interesting. So I guess it's like a peer support program or peer mentoring scheme in a way then. Great.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Jane, I think a question directed to you. David asks, what could Uni Connect partnerships do better to make sure that their offer is best suited to the needs of further education colleges?
Okay, probably the best answer to that is to talk to us. Just get in touch with us and ask us, you know, what we feel would make the biggest difference to our students, and then we can work a way together to see how we can make that work. I think that's probably it, really.
Thank you. I think following on from that, Neil's question, what do you think the role of subject tutors should be in supporting progress? And he says that some evidence suggests that they can play a vital role, especially if they have links with and also teach on college-based HE programmes. Jane, do you have any comments on that in terms of maybe how it works at Cirencester and the role that your tutors take, particularly if they do teach across FE and HE?
Okay, we don't teach as much HE anymore because our university partner has just withdrawn from working with us, so that's not particularly relevant to us. When you say subject tutors, I'm not sure, do you mean lecturers or specific tutors? Because we've actually just moved away from a model of subject specialists acting as tutors to have dedicated tutors who work together with the lecturers. Students can be on such a broad range of programs sometimes that it can be quite difficult fitting them into those correct tutor groups. We do have some specific ones, subject related, but well, in fact they are organised according to the kind of progression aims when they join us, and they're very welcome to move across tutor groups, but they're not delivered by the lecturers, they're delivered by tutor specialists. So
clarified, and he said you know, those specifically teaching on level 3 programmes. So thinking about the role of those lecturers then teaching on level 3 programmes, do they have a role to play within the college? Do they play a role within the college around kind of?
Of course they do. I mean, it's completely embedded in what they're doing. It's, you know, we don't just deliver the curriculum specifically in order to pass that exam. You know, it's our responsibility to, you know, have careers elements, have external speakers in, have all sorts of things to enhance what they're gaining from being here, making sure they're ready for their next stage, making sure that they're fully informed about what they want to do next. So absolutely, they have a huge amount of input, and they work very closely with our specialist tutors to support the students.
Great, thank you, Jane. Kirsty and Bill, I wondered if you might pick up on the previous question around maybe what Uni Connect partnerships can do to better support further education colleges. And I think from your presentation, what I got is that actually you've got very good relationships with your FECs, and I wonder if you could talk a bit more about, well, how did that happen? What did you do to strengthen your relationship as a Uni Connect partnership with the FECs in your region? What kinds of people within the college, what were their roles, did you engage with primarily, and how has that relationship kind of developed over the last few years? I wonder if Bill or Kirsty, you'd be happy to speak a bit more on that.
I think we were fortunate that Go High West Yorkshire was there before Uni Connect, so those relationships were established, and when they put forward the proposal for Uni Connect, they were already working in partnership. On a more local level, Kirsty can talk about this, but the progression officers and the outreach officers both produce development plans or activity plans, which are reviewed monthly, and that must complement and enhance what's already happening in the college. So it starts that discussion about, okay, so if we do this, how does it help with that? What's the college already doing that we can add to? So it is very much a partnership. And on a termly basis, I meet with the outreach officers and their managers, again, to look at sharing good practice, make sure everything's going along the right routes, coming up with new ideas. So there is that sort of joined up working all the time, and on a monthly basis, all the outreach officers from the universities and the colleges do meet, and again, to talk about how we can take things forward. And each of them takes a lead on an area. So we've got a lead on SEND, we've got a lead on with adults, care leaders, the AME, working class boys. So there is that sort of cross-working going on all the time, and that just feeds back into the institutions as well at a senior level. So I think that's why it works, to be honest. Kirsty, I'd like to comment.
Yeah, I guess as well, and with the college network group as well, which is we've started, that again is going to continue through this academic year. I suppose as well, it's recognising we will always work together on everything, but it's also recognising that the colleges have different issues and barriers, and taking the time to really to discuss that and take on board and try and again pull that into and embed it into our overall work that we do. So I think that especially through the last 18 months through the pandemic, I think that the college network group was really well received, and I think that's going to really help with the collaboration moving forward over the next academic year.
Thank you, that's really useful. I've got a final question for Jane. One thing that we're interested in at Study Hire is thinking about how we can work more effectively with parents and potentially kind of more disengaged parents. I noticed on one of your slides you did mention kind of that relationship with parents, and I'm wondering if, you know, one or two nuggets of advice or any kind of best practice sharing that you might be able to share with this group around successes that you've had with engaging parents.
It's a good question, because the ones you really need to engage with are often the hardest to engage with. We all experience that. And obviously the last year or so, it's been particularly difficult because we haven't been able to have many on-campus events like we normally would. I mean, every year we still do parents' evenings, you know, they come in for that. There's certainly some scope. In fact, we're probably going to do a blend this year after feedback from parents, as some will do Teams parents visits and some will do it in reality. So that there's scope to expand that and have stands and talks about more broad topics, which is helpful. We invite all our parents when we launch progression in year 12. In a normal year, we fill our theatre several times over with parents finding out all about applying to university, why they want to apply to university, all the, you know, myth busting around loans and all the rest of it. But yeah, it's tricky. We try and do events on site, bring the parents in as well, but You know, we've done open days throughout the pandemic at that early stage as well, in a very prescribed way, but we have still done them, and I think that's been important, because I think that face-to-face contact and experience of being on the campus is very important. But yeah, I absolutely agree. It's really, really hard to do with some parents. But, you know, if we're worried about students, you know, we communicate with the parents on a regular basis, and we ask the parents to come in and we'll talk to them with their student and try and, you know, sort out any problems that are occurring. But it is a tricky one. It is, I haven't got a perfect answer.
Thank you. No, I think we all share what you've said. It's 12 o'clock, so I'm aware that we do need to wrap up, and I just want to say thank you ever so much, Kirsty, Bill and Jane, for your presentation today. Really, really interesting and insightful. For participants, if you're entering another workstream session, please do follow the correct link, which is in your conference booklet and also on the Study Hire website. But once again, thank you, Jane, Kirsty and Bill, for your time today. Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, Lucinda. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.